What is up, everybody? Bootman here, and we're back with another Marvel Snap video. And in this video, it is a little bit different. It is actually an interview because we have so many questions, thoughts, gripes, and rants about pricing in Marvel Snap. And one of my amazing subscribers actually works in the industry. And I was like, yo, you wanna come on and enlighten us a little bit about what might be going on in the minds of Second Dinner when it comes to pricing and all that kind of stuff. And it was a very, very valuable conversation. So before I get started and introduce the guest, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. If you love Marvel Snap as much as I do a lot of videos about strategy, deck builds, cards. I can't wait for competitive Marvel Snap to get started with like battle mode and tournaments coming up and all that. So if you want to become a better Marvel Snap player, you're gonna want to subscribe. All right, we're trying to hit 7,000 by the end of the month, and we have an amazing Discord community linked down in the description below. Also, down in the description, follow me on Twitter at BootmanMSTZ. I'm doing monthly giveaways for the season pass. All right, so anyways, my guest today is Eric, and I made a video, can't remember which one of my million videos ranting about Marvel Snap and like, the price of things and like, the token acquisition, the card acquisition, all that kind of stuff. But he left a comment, and it was a lengthy comment saying that he works in the industry. And one of my buddies actually pointed out, he's like, hey, you should have this guy on. I'm like, you're dang right I should have him on. So I reached out. Eric was cool enough to come on, and we had a great discussion, and it really helped me better understand. Now, a couple things. First off, and I'll say this a million times, Eric does not work for Second Dinner, okay? Let me repeat that. You can even say it with me. Eric does not work with Second Dinner. He doesn't work for them or anything. He's not affiliated in any way. He has a lot of experience when it comes to the pricing of mobile games. And he actually he explains to me how big the mobile gaming industry is. I'm new to all this. Like, I don't play mobile games. Like, I was playing like Toon Blast. That was about it, And it kind of blew my mind. But again, it helped me better understand. Like, I don't know if I'm necessarily like happy about it, but it helped me better understand. But most importantly, and I hope you listen to this entire conversation, because towards the end, Eric and I discussed some solutions that me and you and other content creators and just people in the Marvel Snap community can do to hopefully get Second Dinner to listen and start making some changes. All right, so anyways, without further ado, here's my conversation with Eric discussing some of the pricing situation going on within Marvel Snap. All right, hello, Eric. Thanks so much for coming on the channel to chat with me. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Chris. Man, I'm so excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of your channel.
Beautiful, thank you. New channel, I'm glad to get it going. I'm finally doing some gaming stuff, but we got some questions. We got some questions about Marvel Snap pricing. That's why I brought you here, because you left a lovely comment on one of my videos. My buddy actually, he's like, hey, you should talk to this guy. I'm like, hey, I should talk to that guy.
Okay.
So real quick, before we dive into some of these topics, again, and I said it in the intro too, you don't work for Second Dinner, you've been in the industry. So let everybody know a little bit of your background, why I'm talking to you, and what knowledge you have that you might be able to enlighten us on.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so my name's Eric. I've been a business analyst and digital marketing analyst for about 14 years through my life. And 5 of it most recently has been in the games industry. Most of it was actually at a virtual tabletop for playing Dungeons and Dragons. But the last year or so, I was actually working at a Swedish company called Star Stable, run a very popular MMO. And I was a marketing analyst over there, helping them deliver their popular MMO to the mobile markets. And so I got exposed to all of the new mobile metrics and how all the pricings and all the situations and systems that go into that.
Gotcha. So yeah, and this is something that another reason I'm interested, because this is like the first quote unquote mobile game I've played. I'm not a huge fan of just like calling it a mobile game, because you can play it on, whatever. But yeah, it makes sense. And it seems like some of their pricing and strategy and everything is geared towards mobile. So like, I don't know, because I've heard other people talking about like, hey, this is kind of like par for the course with the pricing, like for mobile games. Is that kind of what your experience is? Like these like big dollar amounts? And if so, like, why is that? Why do you think that is? Like Fortnite isn't saying like, hey, here's $100 bundle, kids. Like, there you go. So why is that?
Well, there's a lot of factors to go into it, but for starters, mobile gamers are more willing to spend. That's the truth of it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like mobile or like video games in general is a $300 billion industry, right?
Mm,
Half of that is mobile games,
dang, that's
right? Like
nuts.
PC games is barely a quarter.
Really?
Consoles almost everything else. Like
What?
it's unbelievable. Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Like so the idea is that the reason why things are so expensive is because people are willing to pay for it. Truth, like it's crazy.
Yeah,
It
that's
truly is.
capitalism, baby.
Yeah, it truly is. But like, why is pricing so high? It's because the alternative is really bad. If you price too low, you basically are cannibalizing your own future long term revenue and growth. So
Yeah.
largely, you want to set price points higher than you typically would. But there's a lot of listing and feedback that goes into setting pricing model. But remember, but pricing is very much like a dam, where as soon as you go below a certain level, then everyone kind of expects that level, and
Yeah.
don't. And then next thing you know, your subreddit, the top comment is for should I get this bundle? Is wait for the deal, like wait for the
Oh,
sale,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
all of a sudden you're not making anything until that time, and
Yeah.
it throws everything into a loop.
Yeah. So as many people have like started to figure out, like I'm a huge just like one of my big interests is like human behavior, just like this
Oh
mobile
man,
thing. Like I wonder if it's
I know.
just because like when I buy something through my
Yeah,
phone, I just I click buy and then I just double click the side of my little iPhone and boom, it goes through. I wonder if it's
yeah,
just like the ease of which you could do that. You know what I mean? Even when I'm
yeah.
buying when I pay for it through Steam, it's like I gotta like go in and verify my PayPal. So I wonder if it's just like that
It is
ease.
for
That's
sure.
crazy.
It is, and video games, especially like mobile games, are spending billions of dollars hiring the best like psychologists to give them the
Yeah,
best options for this. Okay, so like if you feel like you ever been not even like swindled, but like convinced to buy something in a game, just know that like there's you're against a market that's totally incentivized to make you do this.
yeah, for sure. I actually just finished a book. I actually put it on my weekly reading list that I do on my in
Yeah,
my other world. But it was like 10 arguments for deleting your social media. It's from one of the guys who like started the internet and now he like writes books like, hey, internet's bad,
this
but they
was a
talk a lot.
mistake.
Yeah, they talk a lot about like the psychology behind it and how they're like
Yeah,
they're going after your dopamine hits and everything like that. And me being a recovering addict living in Las Vegas, I can see how people get hooked on opening up the
yeah, man.
reserves and everything. Like when I got that $100 bundle, like
Yeah,
I feel myself going into that. Oh, what's this gonna be? What's this gonna be? But
yeah.
I've gotten to a place where
Look, it's a Skinner
if it's
box,
not
man.
paying out, I'm like,
Yeah,
no, no, I'm out. So
yeah.
so you were
Variable
talking
reward
about
structures, it's crazy. Gotcha
yeah,
games and stuff, yeah, like it's the Skinner box. Literally it's a shortcut to your lizard brain. It's 100% super
yeah,
super, everything about it is 100% true. It's just
yeah, and
physiological.
that's just what I want people to realize. Like, just understand what's happening to you, and then
Yeah,
that way you have a little bit more free will over the decisions you're making. But
yeah,
with like pricing, like you were saying, like you'll cannibalize yourself. Something that I've been really curious about is like, because I really try to argue in like good faith, you know what I mean? And I
yeah,
have no idea what second dinners like expenses are, how long it's going to take them to get to profit. Like they've been working on this game for
yeah,
years. Maybe they're behind. Maybe they need to do this just to survive. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
from your experience, and I don't even know if you know this, like how big like second dinner is compared to some of the companies you've worked for or companies you know
yeah,
about, like how like do you think that's part of it? Is that they're trying to get to a profit, or like what do you would like
yeah.
help us understand why a company needs to do this, and what do you mean by like cannibalizing yourself if you go a little bit too low?
Definitely, Chris. Okay, so for starters, like price, like I don't know exactly what second dinner's size and like operating costs are, but I do know that deals with the House of Mouse do not come without a price,
What's House of
right?
Mouse?
So
Oh,
Disney,
Disney. Got it,
Marvel,
got it.
right? Yeah, getting any kind of licensing deal like that, there are very very strict rules about like that. So Second Dinner definitely does stuff that breaks the mold from other conventional mobile games. Mostly, it doesn't involve any sort of advertisements, as you've noticed, in-game ads.
Uh-huh.
So that definitely reduces their revenue. I think it was roughly around like 20% like of your recurring revenue could have been coming from ads. So they're kind of already slicing off 20% that they could be making. Marvel, again, this is entirely speculative, but it would not be surprised if a sort of deal is at somewhere between 20 to 30% revenue sharing for the
Got it.
IP.
Oh
So
wow.
there's a lot that goes into it, but they also are a small team. And this and about pricing and revenue and things like that, right? So I wanted to hit on a couple bits. For starters, pricing and like why things are the way they are, it entirely depends on company strategies and what your goals are. As a new business and a new like someone trying to eager to establish their name, Second Dinner, right? Obviously they have the pedigree of being the Hearthstone people and stuff like that, but as Second Dinner they're brand new. They need to like create this stuff. They're probably they're probably looking at two key factors, right? Because nothing about pricing and the benefits of the game is really what's going on. It's really all about farming people into your app and then slowly extracting money out of them. Okay, so like the actual game mechanics is not coming into really the factor of the store that much, believe it or not. So, especially around pricing. Pricing is largely around whether or not I want to drive users and the new users to quickly acquire things so they stick around. Because, as you know, when you spend money on something, you become valuable, you become related to it. There's a huge loss aversion, right? So, like these are all huge psychological effects. If the best example of this is like why you have to pay money when you want to adopt an animal, right? Because there's a much more valuable attachment than just showing up and getting one, right? Like there's these things in our psych, like again, it's a psychological part of our brain where spending money makes it hook you, right? So if your pricing is very low or like competitive like that, there's a chance that you could grab people who are new and convert early, but you'll be losing revenue in the long term. What about cannibalizing your revenue? A lot of people offer like those super good deals starting out to get something. Remember the Captain America pack that was like $2?
Right.
That was like incredible
deal.
Yeah, right. They followed that model, and that's why it's not here anymore. Because almost everyone got it. Everyone kind of got hooked on that. And once you're a spender, like the number one leading indicator for being a spender in an app is if you've spent in it already. Okay. Because everyone has this psychological wall. Like everyone, I'm speaking very generally, but there's a psychological wall about, am I going to spend money on this free to play game? And it's once you break that wall, every purchase becomes easier. But you have to get through that part. And that is where a lot of psychology, a lot of marketing, a lot of analytics comes into play.
Yeah, for sure. It's really interesting. And this is why I encourage so many people to like read books and stuff like that. It's helped me with my own purchasing decisions, but they've done research where they like give somebody a mug, right? And once somebody quote unquote owns that mug, they value it more and they're not willing to give it away, or sell it for like a normal price, right? So I get that. Like when you feel like you own stuff in the game or spent money on it. So like here's
some cost, man. So it's huge.
Exactly.
Loss aversion is like phenomenally huge on people.
But like, here's my thing, right? Like, so we're talking about like getting people in and, people spending, and if it's too low, right? Like, they'll lose. But like one of the main issues I have, like I made a whole video on this and I'm like, why I'm like pretty much done spending money, right? I spent $100 and like, I didn't get squat, right? I got like one pixel variant and a bunch. I got a decent amount of tokens, right? I got like enough to get a Series 4 card, right? I don't want to just say I didn't get anything. Like I basically got a Series 4 card when I want it. But for me, it seems like a bad business decision that now they're pissing off the free-to-play players. But I've seen a lot of people who spent the $100 and they're in the same boat as me. So now they're like, but here's the thing. Me, like I've worked a lot on self-control since getting sober 10 years ago, but I think other people will still be pissed, but still put in money. And I don't know if that's what they're banking on, but it just seems like a smarter business decision to be like, maybe we need to up the frequency of like people getting stuff or I don't know. Like there's just such a huge outcry. And since you've worked in this, like how much do you think they're listening and taking into consideration what the community is saying in those regards? Like, hey, we don't want boosters. We don't want titles. Like that's where I'm like, are they even listening? You know what I mean?
For sure. The truth is that I don't think those bundles are aimed at us. The thing you have to understand about the market is that the vast majority of their intention is going towards getting people to develop habits into this game. So they're looking at the people who haven't been playing this game for longer than 30 days and making them stick around for 30 days. Probably their entire intention is focused on that. The people like us who are like addicts, to the game. Sorry, not to poke light at it, but like the people where this is our hobby, right? Yeah, like the people where this has become a hobby, as a ritual in our lives where we like to play it, we enjoy it. You're gonna kind of be playing it regardless and giving us, your money can be almost banked and assured through the the season passes and stuff like that, where there's a huge deluge of players who do not play after 30 days. This is entirely true about the market. So this is the important thing to understand is that a lot of the stuff that you think would be geared towards you is actually not. It's totally geared to the new people, first time experience, and getting them to actually make payments and do this. So for example, the general rule, there's a principle called like 40-20-10 about user acquisition. Is that so you might get a million downloads in a single day, right?
Yeah.
40% of those 40%, 400,000 do not play after the first day.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. Gone. Like it's remarkable, right? And then it just gets worse. A week later, only 20% remain. And then after 30 days, 10% remain. This is sort of like the general rule of like 40-20-10, where like people churn out of games incredibly, incredibly fast. And so what you're trying to do as a designer and a game person is trying to get people to keep playing your game and develop these habits so they don't churn out, because then you don't get any money, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're measuring. And this all comes down to sort of like the key measurements they're looking at, right? Like they're looking at retention rate, that number of sessions and how long you play. Like I'm sure Second Dinner has all this stuff they're looking at all the time. Like I'm sure that they are constantly calculating and reassessing their feed, right, about how to get things as optimal as possible. And I'm sure they haven't nailed it right. But I know there was an article that came out like January 3rd, and they were making, let me find it here. They made, there was an original article about they made 2 million the first week, right?
Yeah, I saw something like 10 million the first month or something like that.
Yeah. This one came out the 3rd, and they cleared 30 million revenue with 14 million downloads in that time, right? Dang. I did the math. Yeah, I did the quick math there. And that's so $30 million in revenue out of 14 million downloads. That's about $20 per 53 people, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that seems, and then I'm like, hey, you guys are doing pretty good. And but something I've been thinking about, especially during this conversation, but like I think we also, like us, like you were saying, like us who are like invested in the game and like it's become part of a ritual and everything like that. Like we're on Reddit, we're in our Discord communities, we're watching all the YouTubers and stuff. And there are thousands of us, maybe even tens of thousands. But like you just said, they're getting 10 million plus downloads. Like it's nothing, right? Like you won't find me like one Marvel Snap video with over 1 million views, right? Like we are a niche community. So I get that. But like the thing is, and again, you don't work for Second Dinner, but it breaks my heart, right? Because it's almost like you guys don't care about us. But I get like they have to make money, they have to stay afloat. They're in business with Disney, Marvel, huge franchise, right? Yeah. But let me ask you this, like,
sure.
I don't know, like since you play the game too, since you're part of this community, do you think that there's any balance? Like they're about to come out with this little Jubilee bundle that's like $5, right? But people are saying, like, I ran a poll on Twitter and people are like, just give us cheaper options. Like, give us cheaper options. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think they can find a balance? What would be the downside? Like, let me pitch you on this. They come out with $100 super bundle that they just came out with, and they say, here's a $50 one, here's a $20 one, proportionate the same, and say, here you go. Like, are they going to be dealing with that same, like people are going to get used to it or whatever? But what if every single time they came out with 3 tiers, go for there? What's worst case scenario?
The worst case scenario is that nobody buys the bigger tiers, and all of a sudden so much money on the table is being left. And you know, that's really what it comes down to it. But like, it can get really, really ugly if you only release cheaper things, because then all of a sudden everyone just gets primed to cheaper things, that this is the price, this is the level we should be expecting always at buying. So once you do that, you really are limiting the amount of money you can make, right? You never really want to establish a floor like that, or like a too low of a ceiling. Like you always want to have those higher options available. You know, I was thinking about a little bit more about your last question though, about think of the typical user and when do you think they would leave Snap, right? Probably like right when they get to pool 3, right? And then all of a sudden they're getting completely like smoked by Silver Surfer.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know what the hell is this?
You're waiting for cards that take forever to get to.
Yeah, you're like, my Dino deck just got destroyed. This sucks. I don't know what that is. This isn't fun. I'm out, right?
Yeah.
So think of the pro bundle at that point, right? Think of the snapshot of that user, right? The 30-day person who's maybe not going to stick around because they're frustrated. They just play through Pool Tool. They like the game, but now all of a sudden there's way more complications and I'm not winning as much. Mm-hmm. What can I do? Well, enter this bundle that says like, listen, you can drastically increase your card acquisition rate, right? All of a sudden, maybe you can be competitive, right? They can't promise that, but that's kind of what they're selling with that pro bundle, right? The
Yeah.
equivalent of the collection level. Because like, think of all of the chests you can open. Think of all the cards that you would
Yeah,
get.
no, like for
And
me,
right,
being Series 3 complete,
yeah,
like that thing was garbage. But like my
yeah,
son and other people who haven't completed it, like they got like 4 or 5 new cards. That's exciting. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. It's huge dopamine, right?
Yeah.
It's tremendous amounts. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
with that, like do you think they like does Second Dinner or does any company have like an incentive to get like the long-term hardcore players like, invested? Because here's the thing, like
Yeah.
me, I know other YouTubers who are like bringing in money. Like this is just me reinvesting back
Yeah.
into this so I can get new cards, make new videos and stuff like that. But then there are a bunch of, whales who don't even make content. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like, is it, do you think like that there's something to keep those people wanting to keep spending? Because I know
Yeah.
I'm discouraged, and maybe I'm one of the only ones where people like, screw it, I'll keep dumping hundreds of dollars. But for me, I'm sitting there like, unless you guarantee me some variants, some tokens, something, like you're
Yeah.
barely getting anything out of me now, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because there's a model for why people spend money in the game. And it comes from this theory, what's called the avatar of power, right? It's like you play Dota, right? I think I remember in a
Oh
stream you
yeah,
said you play Dota,
I
right? The
love me
idea
some
of
Dota.
think of like buying a skin in a MOBA, right? Is an avatar of power because like you're literally controlling that person. That's what they see, right? That
Yeah,
is your interaction into the game environment, right? Now, what do you think the interaction, like, what do you think your avatar of power is in Snap?
variants.
Yes. Like your
Yeah,
cards and your card backs and your cards and your variants. It's kind of like your interaction, right? It's not really like your decoration of your avatar or your titles and things like that. Those are second order, right? Because you don't really see them or interact with them in the game. They
yeah,
just kind of show up there, but like they're not the cards that are making the big dopamine hits, right? You're not as connected to them.
yeah.
So anything that can trigger that kind of connection and that like, oh yeah, I feel powerful having these cards, having a really cool variant, like that is where they're gonna try to hook you. There's like it's the reason why after the bundles, the next thing up, remember, like in the shop is the 6 variants that rotate, right?
Yeah.
Like you can like they know this, like they know that is why like there's a priority order of why there is there, right? Like like every day when you have to go to the shop to collect your 50, you have to scroll past that stuff to collect it. Like there's a
Yeah.
reason. Like this is psychological,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Like they're
it's
doing
kind of
this stuff.
like I try to teach people that it's like the grocery store. They put the milk and the eggs in the back. You got to walk past everything, baby.
Yeah,
Like
it. Yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
think
they put the
people like even if
staples.
they
Yeah,
don't, yeah, even if they don't work in this industry, they got to read books. They got to learn
yeah,
about it and learn all the psychological games that are happening to them on a daily
yeah.
basis. But like with a little bit more time before my Zoom cuts out,
Amen.
like so I've been really like one of the main reasons I'm sticking around, and I've just aside from just loving the game, I'm super excited for like the competitive aspect, right? So buddies of
Yeah,
mine, when Hearthstone came out, they used to try to get me into it. I didn't do it, but I've been in like pro competitive gaming for years now. I've watched it or I've been involved in it, coaching like Counter-Strike teams. And when that happens, you start to bring in big audiences. I remember hearing something about like $100,000 Hearthstone tournament, something crazy. And I'm
yeah,
like, huh, is Marvel Snap going to get to that level? So, anyways, like it seems like that's going to be it could, like there's potential there where
yeah,
that could be a branch. And I just imagine the competitive players, the people coming into the game, they want to play, like they might be turned off by some of that pricing. Like, was this an issue with like Hearthstone in the competitive scene, or mentioning Dota? And Dota isn't a mobile game, but they didn't price things like insane, and
no,
they still bring in a lot of money. They back when I went to the international like 4 or 5 years ago in Seattle, it was like
yeah,
one of the
man,
biggest prize pools in the world. Like they didn't have to overcharge to just bring in bank. I'm
yeah.
trying to figure out a route where we can get some shit for cheap. You know what I mean?
Look,
Like, so
absolutely.
what are
I
your
will I
thoughts?
will explain that like the leading amount of research about how to get stuff for cheap is that again they're trying to avoid that sense of a lower price tag and grab things. And so what you do instead is the reason why you have to check your inbox. You get free things through your inbox. You get these gifts. You
Yeah.
receive gifts that are cheap. You don't receive sales that are cheap because they don't want you to associate the game with it being cheap because then you're only going to be doing cheap things. It's the big psychological crutch there, and I know it's remarkable, but it's so hard to understand without looking internally at their numbers, right? But the minute they try to test or like do anything that would be like a really cheap bundle like that, they, like you can't, the genie's out of the bottle. You can't go back to another level, right?
Yeah.
That's bad. That's bad feel. And in a global environment, you can't test like different markets at different prices either, right? Because as soon as you do that, you're going to get Reddit outrage being like, no, everyone VPN to Philippines, get like $20, like there. Or
So do
I'm just
you
making an example.
like? I'm glad you touched on that, because that's one of the main things I've heard. Like, I didn't realize how international this game was, but I get comments on YouTube and on Twitter where, like, in other countries it's priced at the same $100 USD, which is like somebody from Brazil said this is the price of rent. You know what I mean?
It's absurd.
So is that what you think it is? There'd be conflict, people talking about it. Like, explain that, because that's one of the main things that I hear.
Sure.
Like, why can't they price it differently, like proportionate to that place's like standard of living? You know what I mean?
Yeah. They absolutely can. The technology exists. The enforcement of stopping people from VPNing exists as well, but there's a lot that goes into setting that stuff up. Right. And then all of a sudden you're starting to examine and audit accounts and do fraud analysis and ban people who are doing that.
And that costs money.
Yeah, exactly. And all of a sudden you're, exactly. Right. And think of all the other expenses you have for the licensing fees, all of the, and just your general server up costs. Right. Like,
yeah.
But like, I'm glad you brought that up. It's a reason why also from that article about the money for like the 30 million, 14 million downloads article. Yeah, like they mentioned that almost 15 million, so almost nearly half of that money is coming from the United States, which is absolutely something that I've seen as a trend. The US, in terms of demographic data, US users of mobile are the proclivity to spend, your ceilings for spending is far higher than the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But you also are more savvy about what you actually choose to invest in. So it's really hard. It's harder to get you to convert from free to play to pay, like a paying player. Like, you bet your bottom dollar that there is a status log in someone's database at Second Dinner that says, paid player versus free player versus whatever, and they're tracking that stuff, and you're, all that kind of information is getting logged, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the people in the U.S. and how to get them to switch over to be that, at the expense of the rest of the world.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. So like, let's close this thing out with a couple more questions of like a happier note, like, because all of this, like, man, I'm just gonna be honest, like, it kills me because I get it, right? But like, we're doing this video and people are gonna be tuning in because it's like, coming into this game, I kept hearing like, Second Dinner listens to the community, Second Dinner cares. Everything you said makes 1,000% sense, right? But there's supposed to be this idea like they're listening, they care, and it's like, is that just the balance changes? Like, where can they find that balance? Again, you're part of this community. Like, what do you think is a solution? Because the people who are invested, like, is it just, I don't know. Do you look at yourself and you're like, well, screw me. I don't, I get it. Like, they got to make their money. But like, you've seen the backlash within the community that you're a part of. Like, where's the happy medium, do you think? Like, is it just us players shutting the hell up? Or do you think that there might be something Second Dinner can do to find a middle ground?
No, it's definitely not us shutting up. The middle ground is, I think we're going to see a big middle ground show up with the battle system. To be honest with you,
how so?
I think that would be one of those key features that allows us who are been playing a while to have something that's better than just what do you do post infinite, right? Like, how you can either have a community structure, maybe even tournaments or something through the battle system, but in general, the ability for us to experiment and show off like the best that we can and against targeted individuals, that we want to play against in a conscientious way, effectively having like to use the parlance, like a whale versus whale battle, which is typically where you get money to be spending, being like, oh wow, playing against specific people, I really need to up my game. I need to spend money in the game. So that's sort of like, I think, what they're experimenting with here.
Yeah, because I've made videos defending. I'm like, listen, if you guys were playing like the only other card game I played was Magic the Gathering in like 8th grade, right? Or middle school rather. But like, I had to pay money. I had to buy packs. Like, it wasn't free. I didn't play for free. So like, I get it, right? I get it. Competitive gaming. Like, I had to buy a computer and have the equipment, right? When I played high school sports, I had to have equipment, So I get it. So last question, let me ask you this. Is there anything, because like you kind of touched on it, I'm not sure if I'm understanding you correctly, but as a community, everybody listening here, is there anything do you think we could do to influence? Because if I put myself in like Ben Brode's shoes and he's answering to like Mr. Disney or whoever it is, right? like, what would we have to do as a community to show Broad that he goes and says, hey, listen, we got to adjust the pricing a little because look at this massive audience we just brought in. Let me give you an example. Scenario. We start running tournaments. Some big whales come in. They start doing thousands of dollars in prizes and stuff, bringing in, you know, Twitch streams. They start popping off, breaking records, all sorts of stuff. So then someone like Ben Brode can go to those guys and say, hey, look, this is an audience that we have to nurture and care about. So let's give them a couple options. We need to risk it, whatever. Like, what could we do as a community? That way everybody can leave here with a plan of action to maybe do something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, there's three main things they're going to be looking at, right? One of them is stuff that's off the table for us, right? That's the acquisition and the amount of time. But so for the things that we can do, though, is obviously playtime in the app, right? Showing that we're as dedicated as we can be. We enjoy this game, right? You know, any sort of like customer service or feedback, though, to be able to send them like directly actionable, like, listen, though, I'm not enjoying my time. I might stop playing. Being able to have that sort of communication, and you know, and the alternative would be then to stop playing and for them to see that you stopped playing. So like, those are like the three actions, right? It's like either directly communicate out to them, reach out to them, and let them know, give them your honest thoughts there. And if they want to listen to it and hear it, like especially from people like, listen, you know, I've spent money in this game. I've been playing this for a while. I'm not feeling up to it anymore. I'm feeling kind of burnt out. I don't feel like I'm listening to, you know, and enough people like that. Definitely scares these type, like, you know, a lot of these companies, because you know, if your lifetime value begins to shrink, again, it all boils down to money, right? They want you in this game as long as possible to farm you for as much money as possible. The minute you leave the farm, they get scared. Right. Like that's so that's when it comes down to it. That's
right now. There's even the huge conversations like about what's going on in Magic the Gathering, right? Like I hear it, like I hear stuff going on, and you think that would like scare them, but you know, just one final thing, like one of the reasons I make videos, and I made that video about why I'm not, you know, thinking about spending more money in this game, is because I know that kind of stuff works, right? When they hear it, when people with an audience, if other creators do it, that might influence a little bit, like, you know. So I've been trying to balance it out because I do love the game, you know what I mean? But they need to hear it, and then hopefully something happens. But yeah, man, I really appreciate your time. I know you're not like some massive influencer, but is there anything you want to plug? Anything, anywhere people can find you if somebody wants to bug you or yell at you like you're Ben Brode?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I'm in your Discord, man. I'm Eric Vulgaris in your Discord.
Yes, I can
see me around.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, I appreciate your time. It's late where you are, and I might have to do this again if I need to vent to somebody.
For sure, man. My door's always open.
All right, everybody, that was my conversation with Eric. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you gained some knowledge, some wisdom. I'm super glad I was able to talk with him. And yeah, I look forward to doing more stuff like this, you know, like I'm always trying to create content that I don't see on other channels and all that kind of stuff. So I'm super, super grateful that Eric took the time to come on. He's like in a different country. I forgot where he said, but it is far, far away from where I am here in Las Vegas. So yeah, if you join our Discord community, you can chat with Eric. I've also linked his Twitter down below. Don't like bombard him with questions. If you have like follow-ups, I might make for a good video, but yeah, don't rant at him because again, what do we say? Eric does not work for Second Dinner, okay? So let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts about this? Like my final thoughts on this thing is like, it really sucks. Like, you know, I'm transparent about this. I don't really mind. Like, I am a leftist type person. I have a lot of criticisms about capitalism, and it seems like that's what it all boils down to. It boils down to where, like, profits first, making the community happy second, right? And maybe third, fourth, fifth. And, you know, one of the reasons, you know, I bought that Dino Size bundle, like I said, was because, like, even though I said I wasn't gonna dump more money into Marvel Snap, I realized too that I'm a creator here. I get, you know, I'm not a massive creator, but I get thousands of views. And if I talk and if I share my opinions, maybe that'll get Second Dinner to listen because I have an audience, right? I feel obligated to review these things and let you guys know, like, hey, if you're Series 3 complete, I wouldn't put my money into this thing, right? Like, I'm hoping that reaches somebody at Second Dinner, like, yo, this dude, even though he's reaching like 2,000, 3,000 people in this video, That's X amount of people who may not spend money in this game. So hopefully they make a difference. So keep that in mind, because there have been conversations about, are we being too negative about Marvel Snap? Are we, not like talking about all the good stuff? Like, we love this game, but we need to put some pressure on them. And if we're talking like, kind of like Eric said, if we are people who are saying, yo, I am spending money, or I was spending money and now I don't plan to, that's when they start listening, right? So they can have their crazy high-priced stuff, but we keep saying over and over and over again, we need some cheaper options. People are willing to spend money, just not at this price point. And I get what Eric's saying about how, like, once you drop that price to a certain point, like, it's hard to get people back up. But I don't know. Like, I would want to see it. I'm sure there's been plenty of experiments and things like that, but every community is different. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have people who are constantly buying the $5, $10 stuff, right? Like, there are a lot of people who will buy the season pass every single season, but nothing else, because that's how much they're willing to spend. So I think if we do have tiers, it'll make things a lot better. You know what I mean? So keep applying pressure, but also remember to balance it with your joy and love for the game. Like, we love this game. That's why we are criticizing it. That's what I will say until the day I die, all right? We criticize the things that we love, all right? So again, a huge thanks to Eric. Check down in the description below. You can follow him on Twitter or join our Discord community. He's pretty active on there. I regularly see him in our different chats and stuff like that. All right, but anyways, that's all I got for this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell. We're trying to hit 7,000 subscribers by the end of the month, and you can join our awesome Discord community and follow me on Twitter at BootmanMSTZ over on Twitter if you want to be part of our monthly giveaways for the season pass. All right, so yeah, thanks so much for watching. I might do a deck review later, a little bit of gameplay, have a little chat about that, so stay tuned, all right? But until then, have an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you next time.